Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on the design mindset. My name is Kajan Barreto. Some of you might know me from my YouTube channel, Tech for Toastmasters. If you haven't already done it, I advise you to go and have a look at it. And I'm sure most of you who are joining here today are from our WhatsApp group, that nice little community that we have on TI branding and design. If you are not from already in that WhatsApp group, I will post the link to our WhatsApp group, even though at present it is kind of full because WhatsApp has this limit of 1024 members per group. But if you're already part of that group, you might know that we have conducted many sessions on branding, on Canva. And I can see the quality of work in the group. Some of you are very good. Some of you have learned from the group. But at the end of the day, I have always felt that we haven't focused too much on the other part of our WhatsApp group name, branding. Everyone is an expert. What is the brand colors? What is the fonts? What is the gradients? But what about the other part, which is the design? How do we go about creating something that is compelling to the person reading our content? Now, when it comes to design, some of us first get our hands on Canva and we see the themes that are already available. We try to play around with it. But if we start with a blank screen, how do we go about assembling things on that canvas so that when you present it to your audience, they are compelled to read everything that is on that design? I'm not a professional designer, that is for sure, but I am a good photographer. Around 21 years ago, I first invested in a digital camera. It was a Casio 3.1 megapixel. It was the top of the line at that time. And I started going around randomly creating pictures. And it's fun because it's digital. You don't have to spend any money on it. You take a picture, take 10 pictures, out of that, one might be good, which makes your audience go, wow. But then I started getting into what is the picture all about? How can I create a picture that is compelling and that makes the audience look at it and sort of convey a story that I'm going to sort of create with the image? And so I started investing in cameras and lenses and tripods and everything behind in this room that you can't see because I'm using a camera that hides the background. But if you could see my background, it is all about my gear. And what I started learning is when I got this gear, I started learning by practice, by trial and error. What is design? How can I place elements that I'm capturing in a way that can lead the audience to sort of follow what I want them to see? And so I learned concepts like the rule of third. In this case, I found that I wanted to shoot this Milky Way, and I made my brother climb that very unsteady kind of piece of rock just so I could place a frame of reference of a person looking into the vast cosmos. And so that was my experience in designing, learning through trial and error. And one of the advantages of photography, of course, and I've noticed that most designers are good photographers, is that we can do a lot of alterations after the fact. I can take the image, then I can crop it to exactly what I want to frame. I can color it. I can maybe add some contrast. I can add some saturation to make the image pop. But when we talk about creating a design that is Toastmaster related, and I want to create a poster or a flyer or whatever it is, first of all, I am working within the constraints of the brand manual. I can't use anything that I want. I cannot take a design and then say, I want to apply a saturation, because that will play around with change the branding colors, right? And also, when you're looking at a image, you don't have the luxury of doing it trial and error. You have only one shot at it, one shot to create that message. And that means you need to understand some of the design principles to create that message. So today we are going to discuss in the next 55 minutes, and this session is going to be anchored by distinguished Toastmaster Priscilla Dias. Just a second. Now, Priscilla is a cake artist by profession. So it does mean that she has some experience in designing. As you can see, she creates this fancy looking designs. She creates these designs because she wants her customers to go, wow, when they see her designs. Right? But I believe she, like me, has learned through trial and error. Her first cake did not look as good as a 100th cake. Okay? That was through practice. But today she wants herself to learn some of these basic principles of designing. And so I will let her take over the stage to understand what is she going to do, who is she going to bring to the stage today to explain to us all about design. So today it's all about designing, but of course within the framework of Toastmasters brand manual. To take it forward, distinguished Toastmaster Priscilla, the stage is yours.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Gadgeton. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this podcast that we have brought to you. And it is going to cover, as Gadgeton said, it is going to cover the design aspect of our Toastmaster branding and design WhatsApp group. We've been focusing a lot on branding, and it is high time that we move on and see how design also impacts our flyers. Sticking to Toastmasters brand manual, we have covered branding. We are stuck with the colors. We have tried our best with using the fonts and the gradients and made them beautiful, made our flyers beautiful. Now, how can design make our flyers beautiful? As already mentioned by the Gadgeton Barreto, I myself have designed cakes. It's like a blank canvas to me when I put on the fondant onto the cake, and then I have to decide, how do I design this cake? Now, very rarely do I have a free hand into designing my cakes, because these are custom designs, so they are based on what the customer wants. And so I have to follow that design. But if I was given the opportunity to design a cake, then I think I would be completely blank. And that is the reason why today I have brought the Toastmaster Vishal Edward Khan, the District 20 Public Relations Manager, to explain to me and to all of us what exactly is design. How do we design my cakes? You're most invited to join me. And how do we design our flyers for our Toastmaster clubs, for our meetings, or even to encourage our members? So I would like to please get a round of applause for Toastmaster Vishal Edward Khan, who is here today to discuss with us design and the elements of design that will enhance are flyers that will appeal to our audience, usually the non-Toastmaster audience. All our club audience, our club members, we do know what our flyers look like, and we know what's the meeting theme going to be. We know who's the grammarian. We know what the word of the day is going to be. We know who is going to be the TMOD. But if we want to attract our non-Toastmaster audience to come and join Toastmasters, the very purpose of creating flyers for a meeting or an event, then we do need to focus a little bit on design. So welcome, Toastmaster Vishal Edward Khan, to this podcast, to this workshop that we have created, especially for our members who are on our WhatsApp group. And of course, anyone else joining today is most welcome. So Toastmaster Vishal Edward Khan, just give me a definition of design. What is design?
Okay, thank you very much, DTM Priscilla, DTM Kajitan, for having me here. It's truly an honor to share what I have learned throughout these years about designing from literature and also from my own experience. Now, going straight into your question, what is design? Now, that's a very simple thing. To simply put it, design, I should say, is a harmony to your site. Anything which brings in the harmony. Now, I should say that your cakes actually do have a design element, because what happens is the harmony of having the visual aesthetics is something which is inborn in us. At a very moment when you are fixing a photograph, you really don't need a tape and this thing, but just by looking at it, you can actually say, okay, that's a little left, a little right, maybe a little down here, and everybody knows it. So design and having that harmony of the visual aesthetics is something which is inborn in us. Our whole body is a beautiful design. It is very symmetrical on either side. So the design element is something which is, we are born with it. We have always, all human beings have the ability to understand that what a good design is. Now, moving on to a good design, let me start with, before we get into the content of our agenda, I would like to ask, like we are able to distinguish between a good design and a bad design, right? But
I was just coming to that. Yes. How do you identify that?
Okay. Well, a good design is something which I said, you know, it has got that harmony. It has got that visual appeal. And that's what makes a good design. But if you ask me, what is a great design? I don't think so I will be able to answer that, because good and great is pretty much a subjective perspective. So at the end of this podcast series, you will be, and we all will be able to identify the elements of a good design from a bad design. And as I said, a great design is always a subjective perspective. So this is what I would like to talk to you about design. Now,
let's dive into it. Come on.
Let's dive into this one straight away. So I will be moving into the content of our podcast today, and we will be talking about 8 concepts over here. First is the balance, alignment, hierarchy and leading lines, rule of third, which DTM Kajitan is pretty much a big fan of that, contrast, and then we have the rhythm. That's something new. And then after that, we have proximity, yes. And finally, we'll be touching on color and spaces. So, are you good to go?
Color and space. Sorry, if By color, do you mean non-brand colors, or are you talking, is it something different?
Well,
We have branding colors, so we have to stick to colors. So let's make sure it's not something else.
I perfectly understand, DTM, Priscilla, that we are so much tuned to the brand colors. Yes, the whole idea here is to use color and space in our design. Now, I do not mean to say that we have to. I mean, as this podcast is about design and concepts, I will be talking about how color and space can be used in your design and concepts. Of course, we have our primary colors in Toastmasters. Yes, we do have, but that is exactly what the brand compliance requires. Today, we will take a little step aside just to understand what design concepts are, and we can definitely use the Toastmaster colors also to understand the design concepts. Okay. With colors and space.
Fine. Let's get on.
Let's get moving on. So first on our list is the balance. Balance is everything. Balance in your approach, balance in everything in life. So what does the balance refers to? Now this refers to a distribution of any graphical design elements such as shapes, text boxes, and images of a design evenly distributed throughout a layout. Now, as you can see that there is a layout of this frame. That's the layout. In my couple of next slides, I will be explaining to you how the balance element becomes a very important component in your design concepts. So we'll be going through a couple of slides on this one, with the first slide talking about balance. Now, that's balance, right, Priscilla?
Yeah, there is some scribble. There's a rectangle, a square, I mean, a triangle, a square, and what do I call it? A sphere? How does that balance there?
Well, the whole idea was, what I would like to basically tell you is that the layout is now balanced. What it has done, the concept, what you've done is basically we've used some defined shapes, very much recognizable defined shapes. That is a square, the sphere, the rectangle, and then the doodle. Now they all have been balanced on either side of the entire layout. So that is what actually we mean by balance. But let me give you a little more, a simpler way of understanding what this balance is about, which you will find in the next slide. And this is what I'm talking about. Now you can see that there is a balance in the entire layout. You can see a picture, a graphical image on one side, and then you have the text of equal length or equal height, which is corresponding to the graphical image. So that is how we achieve balance in our layout. Let's look at something else. Another way how to do this balance. You can see 3 squares here. The balance is achieved by proportionately an equal distance between all these 3 squares. If it was 4 squares, then probably you would have another one, but with that equal balance. How do you like it so far, Priscilla?
Out here, I find this very boring.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
we want it to be appealing, but this, to me, I find just having to really measure, I find it a little bit boring. So
I understand.
Do you still think that this is appealing? How would you make this appealing?
Okay, let's make it appealing by changing a bit of colors here and there, and then let me show you how does this actually gets appealing. So now we have introduced a contrast color over here, and you've got a balance achieved. Now you can see there is a big square, and then you've got 4 small squares, which are making a balance in the entire layout. So this is how we achieve the concept of balance in a layout.
Okay.
And conversely speaking, this is not a balance, but because even though they are pretty much apart, but still there is a balance. There's a balance of the weight of the black box and the weight of the 4 small boxes and the space in between. And this is how we achieve balance. Let me give you another example of XOXO. Now you see, is it appealing now?
Yes, but the colors are not brand colors.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
But
Yes, this is appealing. This is appealing. But the very fact that all of us in the group are always looking for how to make it better. I'm sure most of us sitting over here have already started. Oh no, this should be a little that side. This should be a little this side. Shall we do it? So yeah, this is appealing. Okay,
okay.
I'll take that.
Okay. So now let me explain to you how this is being balanced.
Okay.
If you look at our next slide, we see here, this is the layout. There is a picture, the XOXO picture is then, which talks about the fine jewelry, and then you have the text beneath it, and it has been proportionately extended, or the space, the words have been spaced so that we create a balance, a symmetry. You see the left side is equal to the right side. So that's what we basically mean by creating a balance in your flyers. Now, this is basic. These are basically the concepts. And as I said, these concepts will be helping us when we are designing any flyers or any art form. I'm sure there are a lot of artists around here, and we would like to see from the eye that how I can create a balance in this. So this is how we do it. Another example of balance would be my new vector, which is
okay. 1 minute, so that people are unable to see the slides. If you're using a mobile, maybe you are not able to see the slide. Oh, okay. Salma also cannot see the slide.
Okay, so we are not actually using any slides here. We are just using the spotlight. So you should be able to see 2 screens on your, 2 screens of a presenter and another screen just showing the content.
Can others confirm if they are able to see? Toastmaster Dinesh, are you able to see?
oh, thank you, Susan.
Thanks. Okay, fine. So if Salma can see, then I think it's good enough.
I see. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation.
Thank you very much, Salma. Thank you very much for that confirmation. Thank you very much for joining in. Really appreciate your time and effort for this podcast. So moving on to the next 2 slides over here. Again, we're talking about the balance that we talk about. Now, as you can see here, how the balance is achieved in this composition is that it has been equally spaced on the left and the right, on top and on bottom. Let me show it to you how it has been seen. As you can see in these lines, do you see that?
Yes.
That is the concept of balance. Interesting so far?
Yes, pretty interesting.
Okay, so now we're going to move to our second concept, which is called the alignment.
Okay, Toastmaster Vishal, can we just is there anyone who has any question with regards to balance? One question, we will take a quick one.
Sure.
Okay, no questions. Okay. Okay, Toastmaster Vivek Viswan has a question.
Yes, Vivek, go ahead.
Vivek, I think we'll have to unmute him.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Hello. Hello,
Hello,
Vivek.
Vivek.
Thanks for the session. I think it's really going good and I'm enjoying it so far. One question on balance, right? So, can we have different geometrical shapes and then create some balance? Or is it should be like, because you showed only square and then showed me like 4 squares, right? So, can we create and then flip those shapes and then create some balance? Is there any thoughts on that?
Well, Vivek, thank you very much for a very interesting question. It is very, very interesting that you've asked me this question. And I'm sure a lot of people must be actually having this sooner or later in their mind. The answer is simply yes, we can do that. What you saw in that photograph where we had a sun and a quote from Helen Keller. Now you understand that there's a graphical image and there's a text. The text was spaced enough so that it matches with the weight of the graphical image, right? So that is how we created balance. Now, answering directly to your question, what you meant was, can we have a recognizable or a predefined object, a shape, balanced with something which is not equally defined? Is that correct? Is that right, Vivek?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, definitely that is how we create a balance as well. So we had a square. I mean, in my first image, what we were talking about, we had a square, we had a sphere, a rectangle, and a doodle. Now you see the balance was created by keeping two graphic images on each side. Okay, they were definitely not identical to each other, but they were two, and then it were equally spaced from the center. So this is how we basically created a balance. And that's what brings in the harmony in a composition.
Okay, great. Let's move on. Thank you so much. Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Toastmaster Vishal.
All right, moving on to the second concept, which is alignment. Now, that's a very interesting one. Now, alignment refers to the distribution of graphical design elements such as shapes, text boxes, and images of a design evenly throughout a certain layout. Design can choose between balanced, stable, off-balance layout in the context of graphic design. So now let's look at the very basic thing of alignment. As you can see that there's a layout and we have got a lot of information in form of a graphic image, and you've got text, you've got a header text and bullet text. Of course, this layout is conveying a message, no doubt about it. It is definitely conveying a message, but is it appealing? So how would you actually make it appealing? DTM Prasala, any guesses?
Of course, I guess that picture, the photo has to be put straight. The bullet text, which is all over the place, could be aligned one below the other. This is how I would look at it. From design perspective, how do we go ahead?
Okay, so let's find that out. What DTM Prasala?
Oh,
there
I'm
you
right.
are. Like I said, design concept is something which is already inborn. It is always with all of us. We are born with the concept of design. It's just that we have to explore it and be a little more sensitive towards it, and that's how you get the design. So you've absolutely rightly suggested and corrected how that information on that layout could be made more appealing by using the concept of alignment. As you can see, you have corrected the image and you've got the bullet text evenly spaced out, and finally you've got the header text, which is the largest text and which has got a lot of weightage placed right on top. Thank you so much, and doing very well, DTM Prasala. That's great. So I think alignment is pretty much simple. I think that should be quite easy to understand. And now, are you ready for the third concept?
Yes.
Which is hierarchy and leading lines. Now, great. Okay, let me explain to you hierarchy and leading lines. Now, this concept is basically combines two aspects: dominance and priority, giving extra weight to certain elements of a design over the others. You remember the header text which you had in the previous slide? We made it much bigger, right? So we gave more weightage to that one, right? So this way it helps us to convey a more emphasized message or something that you would like to emphasize upon. We do it by highlighting it, making it more bold, and even placing it at a more prominent position, which gets its importance. So I would like to share some posters which talks about the hierarchy, and after that I will be talking about the leading lines. So far good?
Yes, bring it on.
Bring it on. So let's see on how what I meant by hierarchy and leading lines. Now, as you can see, DJ Priscilla, what do you see first over here? What catches your first attention?
Area 17.
That is true, because this event is all about Area 17 conducting the annual speech contest. And why did it catch your attention?
I guess
Because
it's bold.
It's bold, yes.
You know, the text is compared to the rest of it is bigger in size, the font.
Absolutely. This is how we have actually achieved the concept of hierarchy, and we have emphasized that this event, first thing, event is about Area 17 conducting the annual speech contest. And you can also see that it is also about Toastmasters. There's a picture which says, which has been, highlighted by the triangle, which is about Toastmasters. So this is a Toastmaster event, and then it is giving us a leading into that it's an Area 17 district annual speech contest, and it is conveying another very strong message, which is join us, right? So we have done is the hierarchy. We have got three very important points here. One, it's a Toastmaster event, and you see how it has been highlighted. Then you have the second in equal hierarchy is the Area 17 annual speech contest. And the third one is what we're talking about, like, come join us. So these were the three main messages that you wanted to express it. And you have done it by highlighting it or making it more contrast or using the more weightage on the posters. So let's look at another one. Yes, DJ Priscilla, what catches your attention first?
Of course, Area 20 annual contest.
That is very true. Are you from Area 20? No.
No, Area 21.
Pretty close. Okay. So yes, you're very much right. Our attention is immediately focused on Area 20 because this is an event by Area 20, and then that's where the hierarchy, that's what we have basically used to convey the hierarchy, or go through that hierarchy, that is an Area 20 contest. And then it moves on to join us to explore and excel. And then you see another one more hierarchy, which is it's a Toastmaster event. Of course, since we see Toastmaster logos so often, we pretty much see that, oh yes, the Toastmaster event is there. But look at it from a perspective of a person who's a non-Toastmaster. He will immediately just look at, oh, there's a globe and there's a Toastmaster, which is pretty much nice blue, and then you have the Area 20, which immediately catches your attention, and then you have got like join us, which is talking about the second message, which is to join this contest or join us to witness this contest. So yeah, that's
Toastmaster Vishal, you need to unmute.
Yes, I think I was there. Right. So now you remember we talked about hierarchy and the other one was leading lines, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any guesses? What is leading lines? I mean, what do you think could be a leading line concept?
No idea.
Okay.
Frankly speaking, no idea. So let's hear it from you.
Okay. As a very concept, the words used in the concept is that it is basically a leading line. It basically leads the eye or leads your focus from one point to the other point. And that's how the concept, or that is how the information is conveyed, of course, through hierarchy. That's very true. And also how the eyes, or how the human being basically sees the information in the form of consequence, I mean, in the form of sequence. So that's what it is called, leading lines, and which I'm going to explain to you in the next slide, which is pretty much simple. It's a beautiful flower, as you can see. It is placed right in the center. And as you can see, the moment you see this picture, you can see the whole picture at one go. It is showing it is just showing exact. I mean, you just, when you look at it, it clearly just conveys a message that there's a flower, and then this, it just, you're looking at it straight one single time, and this is the entire picture that you get. But what your mind is actually doing is actually subconsciously having the concept of leading lines. Now, let me explain to you how it is done, because it is in line with our third, another concept of the rule of third. So as you can see, the human eye actually gazes a layout from the top. It goes down, it moves on to the right side, because that's how we read. In English, we always read from left to right. Okay, so I mean, we used to that particular thing. So it moves from top, it goes down, and then you're just going to the left side, and then so this is how the concept of leading line comes into the design element. Let's take an example and see how the leading lines are conveying this message. In for another poster.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes more sense when we look at it in the form of a poster, because we're so used to looking at posters. So I want to see how this is used in a poster.
Okay. There we are. Yes. We are moving right from the top. That's basically, it's a Toastmaster. Now, what I want you to understand is that look at this poster from a person who's not a Toastmaster, because they will be giving you a very fair judgment of what they are looking at. So a non-Toastmaster will look at from top. Oh, this is a Toastmaster event, and it comes to area 21, and it talks about join us. And then he would basically move on to the division E, and probably they'll miss out on the clubs which are basically mentioned here, the critical thinkers and this thing. That's what they're going to miss out. But first thing what they're going to look at is the logo, because it is right on top. They come down and see it's area 21, and it says join us. There's a big date, and we have used the concept of hierarchy to emphasize that date. Yes, there is a meeting ID also. And then it moves on to division E, and then you have a speaker, a mic, which says that, oh, this is talking about a speech contest. And you can also see that the yellow line and the white line, you know, the yellow, the band and the white line is also guiding the viewer to look at division E and then come back. So you're also kind of guiding them on how you would want to see their messages in sequence.
Okay, I have a question here. I mean, I'm looking at it. When I looked at this poster and your previous picture of the what did you call it? The leading lines. Okay. What I felt, would it be right if I have to put the date February 18 on the other side, like we see the logo, area 21 event, join us, and then the leading line leads up and then down. So in that space, which is blank over there, which is leading to the mic, would that space be good enough to use? Would that make sense if I want to move the date and time over there?
Absolutely, yes. Why not? It will convey the message, definitely. But then it will convey the message after it has moved from the logo, area 20, join us, and then the eye will actually move on to that date.
Okay.
And
okay,
then
now I get it. Okay, so basically I will be dividing the attention from reading it in the order that it should be, if I have to move it to another side.
Yes.
Okay, this makes sense. Okay. DTM Khalid Jalal, we will have Q&A towards the end. Do write your comment, your question in the chat, and I will take it then. Thank you so much. Okay, Toastmaster Vishal, we can continue. That answers my question, and I'm sure there are questions regarding this, so you will have to answer that later.
Fantastic, no problem. So, in for the next concept. Great, which is called the rule of third, and which is very popular with most of the photographers. It is also pretty much a very compelling design concept used by most of the designers. Now, what exactly is a rule of third? Wikipedia defines it as: the rule of third is a composition guideline that places your subject either in the left or right third of an image, leaving the 2/3 more open. I will get to that. I'll make it a more simpler when we look at the photographs. Okay. So while the other forms of the composition, there are other forms as well. This is not this one. The rule of third generally leads to a compelling and a well-composed shot. As you have seen, now you would have seen that when you're taking a photograph, you must have seen a photograph of a runway model coming. She's right in the center. We've got the balance over there, and that's how it is achieved. But when you look at a scenery, a house, the sun, the mountain, so they are basically more appealing because the photographer has used the rule of third to compose his vision or his photograph. Let's look at it from an example. Okay. Here. The rule of third, as I mentioned, is okay. First, let us look at the scenery, which is on the seaside. As mentioned in the definition of rule of third, it says that we are using our subject in the 1/3, okay, and the rest 2/3 are more of open. So the importance is given on 1/3. So here, the sun is being placed on the left side, 1/3, and the rest 2/3 are more or less open. Now let's compare the two photographs over here of a tree. A tree is being placed right in the center, and then you have a tree which has been placed on the right side, which is the right 1/3. DTM Priscilla, honestly, which picture is more appealing?
Of course, the third picture. It makes sense. Now I realize, well, I take pictures of putting everything in the center. Now I will not do that. Henceforth, I will use the rule of third.
That is exactly what the rule of third is. And it's a very scientifically proven statistics are there why the rule of third is important. You would also see in most of the photographs. Next time when you're viewing a photograph or when you're viewing a landscape photograph, it also actually does work on a portrait one as well. But when you're looking at landscape photograph, pay a little more attention. Divide your photograph into three sections, laterally and vertically and horizontally, and you will notice that the point of interest or the main subject is pretty much close to these intersecting lines. Let's look another vector image, which I would like to show. Here we see the sun, which is pretty much close to the intersecting line, the 1/3 of it. And then you have got another mountain, which has been placed over here. Now, what I meant to say is you're not going to place a mountain, but you're going to use your frame in such a way that you get the intersection in that area. This is how you do it. So similarly, talking about using the concept of rule of third in our posters, we can also have more important subjects in those lines, on those intersection points. Now, as I was saying, that there are some statistics which actually prove that the rule of third does make a difference, and that is through our section, which talks about. And there's a science which says about 40% of your focus is on the first, which is basically the left top 1/3. Then it moves down to the 25th, and then it goes 20 and 14. Well, what I meant to say is that these are the primary areas where your focus does. And rule of thumb, like I said in the first thing, that it is not necessarily that it is one of the composition formulas. It is one of the composition ideas. Now, as I said, when you're looking at a runway model, there is a runway which is right behind her, okay, which is very much symmetrical. And then the runway model is right in the center. And you have the people sitting beside her in the row. Now that photograph is very much appealing, and that photograph has been centrally aligned. Over there, the rule of third is not used. Over there, it has been more central. And that is why it is more appealing, because the people on either side have balanced it. The runway, which is behind her on what she's walking, that has been balanced, and she's right in the center. So this is how we use the compositions, and how we use also the rule of third, which is a very, very important concept in the design. So how is it going so far, Titi and
This is
Prasila?
really interesting. This is really interesting, especially this the 4 areas which really draw attention. I think I'm definitely going to use this. The moment I open Canva, my blank screen, the canvas, and that's it. I am going to draw these lines, imaginary lines, and start putting my most important event information in these 4 places. Wow, this is great. Great information.
Fantastic.
Lovely.
I see a very interesting question from Susan. That's a very good question, Susan. We'll keep it for the Q&A session, but amazing, very well thought. How do you use rule of third in a square? Great, we'll come to that one as well. Fantastic. So, Priscilla, are you in for the next one? And which is the contrast?
I'm sure that not just me, everyone here is in for the next one. Vivek has even turned on his video so that he can see the next one much more clearly. There you go.
Okay, now the 5th concept, which is the concept of contrast. It simply means contrast is an important principle in any form of visual art, as it guides the attention to the key elements. Remember area 20, area 21, we use the contrast, right? So the contrast is an important principle which basically focuses on the key element. It is essential for maintaining the distinction between similar elements, yes, thereby enhancing the layout's overall legibility. Contrast is formed when a design elements are placed in opposition on the layout. For example, dark versus light, thin versus thick, contemporary versus traditional. Yeah, that does work, huh? And you have large versus small, which is pretty much evident. So let me explain it to you in our poster, which is the next one. Yes. I'm using the same poster here so that it helps us better understand those concepts which has been used. Now, as we said, the contrast can be achieved by dark versus light, thick versus thin, contemporary versus traditional, large versus small. Now, DT Impressla, over here, we have emphasized the more important messages of it. Now, as you can see, all the messages or all the elements, or let's say all the graphics over here are important, right? The area 20 is important, the year is important, the explore and excel is important, the time is important, the passcode is important. The club list of clubs are also important, right? All the information here is important.
Yes.
But then we want to basically emphasize on the hierarchy, and we want to say what is more important for the people to first look at it. And when you create that contrast, it makes your poster more legible. Now, as you can see, that there is the area 20 annual contest year 2021-2022. If I had to use, let's say, white color as the text, do you think that would make my poster more legible?
No,
Why?
no, because the background itself is white. So there has to be some contrast in color.
Okay, that's absolutely right. Yes, we have used a contrasting color from the background to make it more legible. So if white is not the right text for that particular background, how come Join Us, Explore, and Excel are in white, but they're still visible?
Well, you've used a background there, but yeah, I think that if that background there it would be either the blue or even the our black or even the magenta.
Right.
I think that also would emphasize, I mean, the Join Us and the theme or the details would still be much better. But this is also good enough. I can see Join Us because there is a background behind. I mean, you've put a background there.
Yes, exactly. So what I have done is I have used, thank you very much, Vivek. That's right. Transparency as well. So what I have done is to use a white color and still make it visible or legible. You can see that I have used a small white background around it. Okay, but that will again merge with the white background. So what I did here is I added up a shadow over here. You can see there's Join Us, and all of the text has got a shadow. That shadow, there's a text, there's a shadow which is a black contrasting shadow, and then that contrasting shadow has made my text more legible because of the shadow. Similarly, over here on the banner, we can see that we have got the burgundy color, and they are the text over there has become more legible because we have used a contrasting color, which is a white against the dark burgundy. And as you can see, large versus small. As you can see, the mic over here is pretty much large because it is from a perspective of a speaker, and you can see the audiences are, or the spectators or the audiences are quite small. So this is how you're creating a contrast in your layout. Great.
Yes, but I have a question. This is branding related. Can we have a shadow of black behind the white? I'm so sorry to take this into branding now, but I'm not really sure about that. Okay, we'll keep it for Q&A. Let's move on to the next.
Yes, exactly. So I said, this session we'll have to take a little step aside to understand the design concept. I'm here basically explaining why, or I mean, what are the design concepts The people who made these designs or who have worked on these design concepts have basically learned or explained the art of making things more visually appealing. And that is what we are basically learning over here, is understanding why a design becomes more appealing. Of course, we have the brand manual, and of course we have our brand colors, which are the trademarks of our organization, and that is why we've been guided to use certain method, how we display text and the colors and the elements of our layout.
Perfect.
Okay, so are you ready for the next one?
Yes. Oh, okay. This one sounds
Musical?
no, let's go with it. Let's hear about this. This really sounds, yeah, you could call it musical.
Okay. Well, okay. A rhythm. Everybody knows what a rhythm is, of course. We have a music and then there's a rhythm. Yes, we know that. We have, let's say, a discipline and then there is a rhythm in it. We have a meeting and then there is a rhythm in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So similarly, we need to also have rhythm in our design. What I mean to say is that it is not talking about adding a musical file into your graphical image or something like that. No. What I meant to say is that there is a standard, there is a rhythm, and you will also notice that there is a rhythm also in our Toastmasters branding guidelines. So what does rhythm actually mean? Let's look into this one. Now, rhythm brings together different elements to create more organized and consistent look. So that's what it is, consistency. Repetition of certain elements such as logos, colors can help make brand easily recognizable and strengthen the overall look. Rhythm is classified into two types. One is the fluid, the progressive. The fluid is basically, this has most significant amount of variation to design, keeping the flow in a single direction. And progressive rhythm is based on a clear sequence which controls the visual moments of the audience between different elements. We will not go deep dive into it, but I just want to explain to you what the rhythm means. And as you see, Toastmaster brand also has got a rhythm. We use same logo everywhere. There's a consistency. The same logo used everywhere tells people that, yes, this is a Toastmaster event. We are using the same colors. There's a consistency and there is a rhythm in it. So it tells people that this is what a brand is, or this is what a Toastmaster, this is a Toastmaster event. So what I meant to say by rhythm in our design would be, let's say you have, let's say one of the VP PR or one of the PR has been given the responsibility to take the lead on the PR activity of their event. So what are the things that they will be actually creating? They will be creating a flyer, a virtual background, and if the flyer is in bilingual, so probably you'll have Arabic and English, right? So how do we bring in a rhythm in this? We bring in rhythm by using repetitive colors, repetitive design, so that when people are looking at that virtual background, oh, this flyer is about this particular event. And that is the reason you will always find some of the elements of the key elements of art which has been used, or a logo which has been used in the flyer is also present in your virtual background.
Yes.
Let me explain that to you. Okay. Look at this particular flyer. Now here we have got a flyer which is conveying the message that it is it's an event, and it is for both Arabic and English. And as you can see that there is a rhythm. I have used, or like the designer has used this particular logo over here to say that excel and elevate. And how they have used a similar one for the Arabic side. Excel and elevate. There is also an arrow. And since Arabic is from left to right, the blocks are increasing in their size from right to left. And that's how it is. Similarly, you see a rhythm which has been shown in this two posters. One is for the Arabic and one is for the English. So this is how you create a rhythm. We could not have, it would not be advisable to have an Arabic poster totally in a different, with different elements on different sides, just because it is a different language. So this is how a rhythm is created by using two flyers. Let's look at how the virtual background was created. You see, there is a rhythm. The gray background, and then you have the logo, the small logo which has been used, Excel and Elevate. That same logo has been used. The banner on the right side, which is the burgundy color, that was also used for the flyer. And this is how the rhythm is created in. And for the Arabic one, you see, the logo was flipped horizontally. And then the same thing in the flyer also, the logo is flipped horizontally. And we have used the same logo over there, the banner, the color of the banner. And this is how we have created a rhythm in our PR activity. So we've used, so when you're using your flyer, when you're making your flyer, let's say you have made your flyer in a particular model, it would be advisable that you also have in mind what kind of a virtual background would you like to have. And it is ideal that you have something which is similar or a repeating element or a logo or even the design, so that it matches with your promotion. So when you're having your promotions in your Facebook or Instagram, so people are looking at that flyer, oh yeah, this is the flyer. And then they are, when you take a screenshot of the entire event, and then you see the virtual background of people, it matches. So that is a rhythm. That is the rhythm of the entire event in terms of PR or in terms of the design elements. What's going for so far?
That's interesting. So it's about consistency. Rhythm is about consistency over all the PR material for one particular event. If I can put that. I mean, when it comes to Toastmaster events, of course, otherwise.
Right. So let's move on to the next one, which is pretty much simple and proximity. Now, yes, that's correct, Vivek. Carrying the theme, that's exactly, we are doing that. This is something which we already do, that we carry the theme, and that is exactly what is called the rhythm. There's rhythm in your speech. There is rhythm in what you convey in your messages. There's a rhythm in what the MC is saying, that consistency. Well, let's now move on to the proximity. Proximity helps in decluttering the overall design by creating relationship between related elements. So you've got related elements in close proximity. It is form of visual connection among important designs such as colors, font, type, size, ensuring the layout is balanced to form a perfect design. This enables audience to have a pleasant overview of what they are looking for, thereby offering good user experience. Now, let me explain to you what it means by proximity. As you can see, if we had to use, okay, let me tell you what exactly is the proximity concept in this poster. You can see the list of the clubs which are represented in area 21. Critical, Elite, Mayspring, KFT. They're all placed together in close proximity. So similar information are, so basically it has decluttered the entire concept. And what we have done is all information which is related to a particular nature are placed in close proximity. Another information which is of similar nature would be date and time. We've got the date and time in close proximity.
ID and password.
ID and password, that's right. We would not want to have ID at one place and probably the passcode on the other side just to create a balance. That wouldn't make sense, right? So we keep things in close proximity. Division E and District 20, that again is in close proximity. So this is how you are basically keeping information in close proximity so that people can understand that, okay, these are related information. And this is how even the eye or the human is basically having a good user experience, that where to find what information, since they're all in close proximity. So far, so good?
Perfect.
Right. And let's take another example on terms of a vector. Now here you can see there is Vishal trainer. That's my number, email ID, and then there's a website address. If I had to add, let's say, an image onto it, or like if I had to add some image onto this one, I would want to have the images, or let's say those information, in close proximity. So what I did is Vishal, and what is his position? He's a trainer, right? His contact details are in close proximity, all those areas. And whichever other platforms, let's say other social platforms, are again in close proximity, those 4 boxes. It would not be advisable to have, let's say, the social platform, those small circles right beneath trainer and the name, and the another circle right beneath Vishal.Khan, Vishal.com on the website. It wouldn't make sense, right? Because what we are trying to do, we are trying to make a wonderful user experience so that people can actually understand that the information, person, what is he, contact details, and this is especially what you find even in any other, on a letterhead, be it on a website. Whenever you want to look for a contact details, what you do, you immediately scroll down and just see, oh, this is where the contact details are, or all the details are pretty much in a similar or in a close proximity. So that is what we understand from the word proximity. Okay, now let's move to our final concept, which is space. Well, I needed some space. I'm back.
We gave you the space.
Thank you, Prasalam. So moving on to our last concept, which is space, refers to the area around or between the various elements of design. It can either be used to create shapes or highlight important aspects of design. Use the color palette to choose colors that can create contrast or even work through a complement together to complement other elements. Now, as you see, the space also is a design, right? We have our logo, and then we have the clear space. Okay, so that is basically that is a rule not to intrude into that space. But when we are talking about the design part, we also use space to enhance our design. So let's look at the concept over here. I've taken a very simple example over here. It says Vishal Khan, DPTM, Kuwait, and this. It is appealing because I have used the concept of space. There is no other graphical element between this, but then still it is appealing because I've used the space over here. And let me explain to you how the space has been used. And this is how the space has been used to make it more appealing and to bring in that emphasis between each element. So finally, it would look something like this. there is a space between DPTM. It has been centrally positioned, and then you have got equal space top and beneath. So with that, I have completed all the 8 elements which are quite fundamental in making a designed mindset. So with that, I would like to just thank you, DTM Prasala, for engaging in this wonderful session. And yes, I am now open for questions or any other feedbacks. Over to you, DTM Prasala.
First, let me thank you for this wonderful session, for enlightening us on what design is all about when it comes to making our flyers, our posters, and not just flyers and posters. As somebody just said that there should be space in relationship as well. I just read a comment, and of course, so all these elements that you have pointed out about rhythm also is very important in not just our posters, but in life as well. So thank you very much for covering up these topics. And I'm just looking at balancing, proximity, space, rhythm. What am I missing on? What was that?
Contrast.
Contrast. And so if I have to look at all of this, it's not just our posters. As someone, I don't know, I have to look for who pointed out that it is also important in relationship. And I'm now looking at it that our relationship with our posters, with our creating our posters, bringing in new members, attracting them, that relationship will be maintained or will be harnessed if we have to apply all these points that you have just explained to us. It's beautiful that we have this branding, TI branding that is given to us in the 37 pages of the brand manual. But to enhance that, we always look at it that, because of this branding, we are so constrained to how we are going to create our posters. But today you have enlightened us on how that branding, which is so compressed, can actually be expanded with having to use these design elements. So thank you very much, Toastmaster Vishal. And now let's take a quick run at the questions, some important ones. Let me just go through the chat so that I can pick on, can we ask Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Jalal, if he can unmute and ask his question? I saw him raise his hand some time ago.
Thank you very much, DTM Priscilla, and thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Your questions.
Vishal, this is amazing. I never knew that design can be a science as well. I thought it's just like a visionary thing someone can think. And I always used to tell myself, I'm not for design because I'm not that creative when it comes to design. But today I knew it's a big science. So definitely I'll give it a try. Now, my question goes back to this slide where you were showing that the poster for this particular event. Can you go back there?
Which event is it, sir?
That join us for this event.
Okay, that would be the slide number 19. Okay.
Go back once more. Yeah, this one. Yeah, next one.
Yes.
No, not this one.
The vase, the flower and the vase. I think you're referring to that one.
No, the previous slide. Go back, previous slide.
Can you highlight? Okay, this one. Okay, can you highlight? Can you spotlight the
one you've been using for your example? Not this one.
The one with the mic.
One with the mic.
Yes,
yeah.
This one.
No, not the one which
not
you
this?
had. Sorry, okay. I'm taking a lot of time.
The 22.
Okay, hold on. We'll take it on this. Now here. Now. It's really important to know how you see something as a designer and how someone who is looking at it as the end point of view, right? Like I'm the user, I'm looking at this design. Now, my eyes goes into two critical information. It says annual contest before it goes to area 20. And it says join us. So that science has worked actually. On the left top side, 42% and the 25%. Now, do you think this actually works for everyone the same way?
Well, subconsciously, it does. Subconsciously, it does. Now, it also depends upon, as we said, we use the concept of contrast and leading lines. Okay. Now, subconsciously, we are going through that leading lines. I mean, that's how you basically lead it, or that is how you would also see it in the poster, which is number 18. I will show you. But before we move on to that one, yes. Now, what we are trying to do is we're trying to understand one concept against the other one. Depending on the person's perspective, that a person understands that a contrast is much more subconsciously, that contrast gives him the more a better weightage or a hierarchy on that message. So that's how the contrast would work for him. But as I said, we use leading lines to basically move the person's focus from one to the other. As you can see in this poster over here, the flyer, the focus first comes on to the Toastmasters, and then it is leading with that arrow and the point leading to area 17.
This is what I was saying, Vishal. My eyes directly goes to area 17 annual contest. Because maybe it's because I'm used to Toastmasters, so I don't look at it. Like you say, subconscious, my mind directly goes to the information which I don't know or I want to start with.
Exactly. And as I said, we are so much used to seeing the Toastmasters flyers that we actually pay little attention to the logo because we understand it is always there.
Yes.
Now, and in fact, if it's missing, we make it a point to bring it to the attention of the designer that he or she has missed out on the logo.
That's the habit we have, pinpointing the issue. So we need to have that space of what we were discussing earlier. Thanks a lot, Vishal. Really helpful.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for lovely questions.
Toastmaster Vishal, the next, thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Khalid, for that question. Toastmaster Vishal, we have another question, but this is related to branding. So I don't know whether we should take it up, but if you are able to answer this, is shadowing allowed? This question comes from Selena Fayez. Is shadowing allowed? Can we have any brand expert wanting to take that question? No. Vivek, would you like to answer that question? Is shadowing allowed? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. But I see your work, and that's why I'm asking you.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled. Shadowing, to my knowledge, it's an effect. So branding guideline doesn't speak about any effects in particular. Mm-hmm. So we just take silence is golden and then we go with that.
Wow, very nicely put. So Selena, I'm sure your question is answered. And if you do have doubts, we could write to TI. Yeah. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you for that. Yes, Susan?
Yes, Susan had an interesting question. Yes.
Just unmute. Please unmute, Susan.
I just wanted to draw your attention to that question I asked for the thirds when you're using a square box rather than an oblong or portrait box.
That's correct. Yes. Susan had a very interesting question. I really liked it, the way you have analyzed the whole thing. Let me read out that question. How would you use the rule of third in a square, for example, which is a FB post or an Instagram post? That's very true. Yes, how would you use it? Now, if I have to enforce that rule, of course, you can divide these, you can divide the box into three. Of course, it can be done into 1, 2, 3. It is possible. And you could also, I mean, that's okay. So that's answering to your question. How do you use the rule of third in a square? You're basically taking it, dividing into 3 segments. So basically 33, 33, 33. Let's say if it is 100 centimeter, or let's say 100 centimeters. So the first line would be at 33, the second line, another 33. And same thing, you go vertically, 33 and another thing. So first will be at from 0, 33, 63, and 100. So this is how you basically use the rule of third in a square, and then you will have the intersection of these vertical and horizontal lines. So that's how you basically apply the rule of third and bring in your subject, the prime subject into those intersection points. The question is, should we apply the rule of third in a square? Well, if you use the concept of space and the balance, you will be more compelled to have your subject more in the center. Or you would be probably wanting to do something which is center weighted, right? So that gives us it opens up the concept that it opens up the question that is, as I mentioned, the rule of third is one of the forms of composition. You're composing a picture. You're composing a music. You compose with the high notes and the low notes and the thing. So similarly, you're composing a photograph. You're composing a design, and you're using some of those points or those intersection points to bring in highlights. A runway model, you have composed that by having it here in the center, right? So this is how I would first, like, if you have to use the rule of third, it can be done 33, 63, vertically and horizontally, 33 and 60, and then it'll give you 4 sections. I think you should actually try using it in your the Instagram post, which is pretty much square, and see positioning those information in those intersection points or somewhere in close proximity to that. And then do ask somebody who's not a Toastmaster, or somebody who's saying that, what do you see first? What is more appealing? And this thing. So I think those will also give us the answers. So coming to the point, rule of third is one of the rules, or one of the well understood concept of composing a design. Composing a design. That's what it is. I hope I have answered your question, Susan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan, for that question. And I'm sure Vishal has explained it very well. I have understood that, okay, if I'm using Instagram to make my poster, then of course I can still divide it and approximately place what I want attention to be drawn at, and then go and ask somebody else who is not a Toastmaster, what draws your attention? So while we are practicing making our posters, we have to also use non-Toastmasters to see how they perceive our work, not just us VPPRs in the Toastmasters Trading and Design WhatsApp group. So we get feedback from 2 groups, non-Toastmasters and Toastmasters, especially VPPRs. Any other question? Toastmaster Vishal, do you want to add anything to your presentation? Well, I remember there was a question I had asked you, and then I said, let's take it to the end. Now I forgot the question. Well, on the whole, I just enjoyed this session of how to design a poster, and I can really now have it all on my in my mind, starting with what I liked most is the consistency, because that really brings about the entire theme. As Vivek pointed out, that your theme can be taken across with the consistency, the rhythm. That really has drawn my attention. And of course, the balance, the contrast. Contrast, we have already, we are doing it well when it comes to branding, because we know the colors and we've learned about contrast there. And I'm sure all present here, all 25, we were 25 at a point, and I'm sure you all have learned something new. We are looking forward from all of us here to see those beautiful posters put up from what we learned today in the group, so that those who could not make it for today's this session will be able to see what we have gained through this session. We promise you that we will bring you more of these sessions. We do have our eyes set on Vivek and Prasanna Kumar, who have been contributing in the group. So Suhan as well. If I missed out on anybody, do come and approach us and tell us that you all would like to do a presentation on branding or on design, and we will have these workshops so that we can gear ourselves to making the best brand compliant and beautifully designed posters. With that, I'd like to hand over to distinguished Toastmaster Cajetan. Take it over. Thank you so much, everyone.
Right.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Vishal, for sharing with us your insights on the difference between a bad design and a good design is very apparent, but the difference between a good design and a great design is all in the eyes of the beholder. It's subjective. So let us aim for creating good designs using the principles that we have learned today, and with practice and with some inspirations, they will automatically become great. I'm very happy that I was able to record this session as it happened and as I have recorded it, because I believe it has created an amazing resource. And this is available on our Tech for Toastmasters channel. I saw there were people who were watching it while it was live streaming, but the resource will be available for anyone who is interested in design. They can say, hey, watch this 60 minutes of all the design principles that can change your bad design into a good design and hopefully into a great design. Thank you, Vishal. And thank you for all those who attended and watched this session with us on Zoom as well as on YouTube.
Thank you so much. And if anybody has feedback to give us,